Tiffany.
Hey Melissa, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be talking to you and to be here.
Me too, on our inaugural episode of the Station 19 2020 podcast.
Yes, I'm totally geeking out. So excited to have this podcast. And I just can't wait to get into everything. It's so exciting.
Absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, I know who you are, but do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Tiffany. You all know me as Rejoice Out Loud, my brand, where I share poetry and really focus on mental health. But thank you all, by the way, for your support. You guys are amazing. Um, Most of you found me because of my interview with Danielle, and I appreciate you all supporting me since then. Yes, that amazing. I still watch it and can't believe that it happened. But and you guys write me all the time how much it helped you, and I really, really appreciate it. But for me, who I am, my job is a nurse. I wish I could just write all day, but I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a mother of two little boys, Abraham and Obelix. I am married and I live in California. We just moved here about 4 months ago from Michigan. Um, I do have some European roots, though. My mom is from Germany, so I have some close family ties. But that's about it from me. How about you, Melissa? Tell us about yourself.
Well, I live on the south coast of England. We live literally about 5 minutes from the water. So I'm a complete beach rat. So if I can be in the water, I will be, but I am not going to be in the water in these temperatures because it's freezing here. and I'm definitely a fair weather water kind of a girl.
Yeah.
I am also a mother to four beautiful children between the ages of 10 and 19 months. Um, Two boys, two girls, all very, very hairy, all with four legs. Um, and that's the way it's staying. And Other than that, I guess I'm a musician. But it doesn't pay the bills. Law pays the bills. I'm a lawyer. I'm a civil litigator. But there's a reason that I put that last on the list. We don't like to advertise that one too
Right.
much. And I'm also a giant Station 19 nerd, which is how I found you. But how did you find Station 19?
Yeah. It's not a happy story beginning, but I was struggling really, really bad with it was undiagnosed postpartum depression at the time, and postpartum anxiety, and I was just having a really hard time. And my mom came over and was checking on me, and she watches shows. She doesn't like sit down and watch shows when they come on TV. She always goes on Hulu and tries to find a series that's like already ended so she can just sit and binge it and like
Yeah.
watch. And so she came over and she was like, "Can I put on one of my shows?" And I kind of rolled my eyes because I know she does that. And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And so she put it on and I was just scrolling on my phone and like hearing it in the background. And all of a sudden I started watching it. 20 minutes in, I was like looking up who all the actors were and is this show still on? And I got to watch this. When is it on next? And I was hooked. I was just, they got me. And it became something that actually really helped me and inspired me. And that's why I had Danielle on my podcast because it, one, I wanted to thank her, and two, I wanted to kind of show everyone that things can help, and
Yeah.
Station 19 did that. So, how
Awesome.
did you find it?
Can you
Oh,
remember, first of all, can you remember which episode it was that got you hooked?
yes, it was the one before Luke died. So
Yeah.
that's the one that she was watching that I wasn't paying attention to. I remember looking up at the screen when he was walking with flowers.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then he
yeah.
went, yeah.
And then
And
they
then like
drop.
the scene when Levi from Grey's Anatomy brought her the flowers and said these were meant for you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, I was done. I was in.
I know. Yeah, that's not an easy watch. That's not an easy watch.
No, just no, it just the writing, the cast, they casted it so beautifully. It's just not many shows are like this show anymore.
No,
So
no, I agree. I agree.
yeah. But how about you? How did you find our the reason we're here?
Well, Karina DeLuca was my gateway drug. So I was a Grey's fan, specific, and I loved Karina. When Karina came in, I thought it kind of lifted Grey's. She was so transformative because she was so light and funny, and she just brought like a freshness to the show. But there was also like a sweetness, and then a depth there. And then it was kind of sad 'cause it felt like she'd phased out of Grey's, and I had absolutely no idea that she was on Station 19, and that was probably why she'd been phased out. And
Yeah.
then because YouTube stalks me, they, they
Knows
I,
you.
I I know, right? And I went on there to like find, I don't know, like a chickpea stew recipe or something, or I don't know. And there was a like a thumbnail, and it said, recommended for you. Why don't you watch this video? And it was like Myron, Karina, like their story so far, or something like that. I don't know. But the thumbnail, I looked at the thumbnail and I was like, oh, the brunette looks just like Karina DeLuca from Grey's. Oh wait, she's called Karina too. Hold on. And so I
All of a
kind of,
sudden, all these like,
yeah, I'm like ding 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 ding. So I clicked into it and then heard the Italian accent. I was like, it's Karina, it is. And so then I was like, what's this? What's the show? I have to watch this show. What's this show? And I
yeah,
will be honest and say that I started at episode 305 because that was the first episode that Karina was in, and that was the only reason I was bothering to watch. But by the end,
understandable.
right? But then by the end of the series, I'd kind of fallen in love with everybody, and so I had to start again from episode 1, and so now I've watched it a couple of times all the way through.
So you did start it from the beginning all the way through.
Yes, yeah, I did in the
Yeah,
end. In the end, but it took Stefania Spampinato to get me there. But now I'm there. I'm all in.
yeah, yeah, and completely understandable. Her talent, and I mean, yeah, we can all admit she's gorgeous.
I
But
mean,
her,
Is she? I haven't
right? Are you on the
honest.
edge? Not quite sure.
I mean, I hadn't noticed. Now you point it out. I mean, maybe she's okay on the eye.
A little bit of a looker. Um,
She'll do. She'll do.
but her performances are just
Oh,
astounding. She's
yes,
amazing.
she's got some acting chops for sure.
She does. Yeah. So I'm so glad that I don't know who did it. They deserve some kind of award. Who looked at Danielle and Stefania, Maya and Karina, and was like, "We should make this a love interest because their chemistry is just
Oh, it's
it.
ridiculous.
It's crazy. You don't find that on shows like that.
Nope.
So
No. No. It's
that
absurd.
it's just awesome. But
Yes.
saying that you started it, I mean, it's funny. We both started the show in the middle somewhere,
Yeah.
and then we both fell in love with it, and then went back, which is funny because that's kind of how, just for our listeners, we're gonna do this, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna start our episodes with season 6, episode 8. I know a place. But just so you know, listeners, hang on and follow us because we will be going back to season 1, episode 1, and releasing those as well. So I think that you guys are going to love it because you can get right now hot off the press content. And then when you're bored this summer, when we're all going crazy waiting for it to come back on, that's when they can listen to season 1,
Exactly.
episode 1.
You can
Right?
go back to the beginning with us. We'll all go back to the start all together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we'll go through it all again.
Yeah. And I mean, it's awesome because that's what we all do when we're on hiatus. We all go back and watch it from the beginning again. Most people go back to season 3, episode 5, and start it from there.
For
Let's just
legitimate
be.
reasons.
I mean, I literally have sat there with my remote, watched an episode, and then gone through which one is the next one with that one scene with Maya and Karina. Okay, that's the one I want to watch now. I've literally done that before.
Look,
I mean, I think
we've got to
we
get
all
our
have.
comfort somewhere.
We do.
So, but shall
So
we
yeah,
dive in
yeah,
with
yeah. Let's go.
608? Because I think that this was a really big episode, I think. So I think that
Yes.
it's going to be, I think that's going to be the catalyst for a lot of the stuff that happens for the rest of the season. So I think it's a really good place to jump in. It was written by Leah Gonzalez, who also did 507, which was the I Want to Count My Blessings on Another Version of You.
Oh, I Want a Little You. Yeah.
Gorgeous. See, again, gorgeous line. I want to count my blessings on another version of you. Leah Gonzalez. Genius.
When you said that, though, I'm so bad. I literally pictured Stefania with the holding the chocolate sauce. And that's what I picked. Sorry.
Look, we've all been there. We've all been there. But yeah, so Leah Gonzalez penned this one. And again, we got some absolutely incredible writing.
Yes.
But I think the episode kind of had 4 distinct kind of storylines or blocks. I think the first one was that we should probably touch upon is the incident that everyone's called to, which is the fire at Theo's old neighborhood.
Yep, for sure.
So the first thing that I wanted to ask you, because I think this is quite a particular thing to Americans, is on the drive there, Sullivan says that the neighborhood they're heading to was part of the recent redistricting from the year before. So is he talking about like gerrymandering, or why would someplace be in a different district this year than it was last year?
Yeah, it's funny because it literally made me think of the movie from my childhood. We're similar age, Mighty Ducks. So I don't know if you've seen that movie, but the coach goes and gets one of the really good players from the other team, and the way he gets them is he said that the county redid the district lines, and so now where he lives, he's on this team.
Right.
And so it can happen. Gerrymandering is illegal in some places. It's legal in some. Whenever we have elections, you'll see the say no to gerrymandering signs. Not so much anymore, but I remember seeing them growing up. It can happen for a lot of reasons. It can happen for overpopulation. It can happen for, if there's an area that's not getting enough, maybe doesn't have enough access to healthcare or resources, they'll move the lines. The mayor can just do it because of money. Just decide they want it moved for some reason and do it. And if they have the money to do it, I mean, what they call it, lobbying.
Yeah.
Then they can get their way. So it can happen for a lot of different reasons. I wonder if, I also wondered if when they closed Station 23 in season 5, if they needed to redo the district because they didn't have a house there anymore. So maybe the fire department had to do it. There's some thoughts there too.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. But I think the fact that it seemed like a very kind of throwaway comment, this was part of the redistricting. So, but there wouldn't have been any because it is such a kind of throwaway thing. There wouldn't be any reason, I don't think, to put it in there unless there was going to be like more of a follow up further down the line. Was my feeling.
It could tie, and it could tie to, now Theo's investigating all these people trying to move in, right?
Yes.
And are they starting the fires? They could be behind it too because they have money. So
which is what I was thinking, which is why I wondered if it was like a gerrymandering thing, and if we're going to be feeding into kind of the larger storyline with Travis and Dixon, because as we know, Dixon is not averse to a little bit of political sort of backhanding and all that stuff. So I wondered if that's why, which is why I sort of wanted to understand it a bit more. So thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of different reasons, but I think you're right. I think it definitely has to do with politics.
Cool. Okay, good stuff. So this fire, it was as we say in his old neighborhood. When he goes back, he's immediately recognized by Tomas. Even though he was, what did they say, 14? Did he say he was 14 when he moved out of there?
Yeah. Yep.
So clearly the boy hasn't changed much. But it seemed to be a fairly routine call for them until such times as the mother of the family runs back into the building to get the family Bible. Theo and Travis run in after her, and then there's an explosion that appears to come out of nowhere.
Yes.
So luckily Theo knows the layout of the houses because they're all pretty much the same from when he grew up. So he manages to kind of find an escape route for everybody. And he even manages to save the family Bible that had their family tree in it and their citizenship papers and everything. But obviously poor Vic went through it, seeing her boyfriend and her best friend go in there, and then this big explosion.
Yes.
And so she's obviously been sort of traumatized by that.
Definitely triggered there.
Yeah,
definitely triggered.
So once we've sort of done the rescue, put the fire out, and we're back at the station, Beckett's being a bit of an arse because he'd told Theo he couldn't go back in to get the Bible. But then when the mum runs back in, Theo then goes back in to save her life. But when they come back to the station, he's benched by Beckett for defying an order, which clearly he didn't defy an order because he didn't go back in after the Bible. He went in to save a life. So
well, and he literally sent Travis in too and said, well, the civilian is go in there. Yeah. So you just sent him in to get the civilian. It doesn't. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's being very inconsistent again. So we're not seeing the best leadership qualities from Beckett, and then poor Vic's having a meltdown in her towel in the locker room, and Theo seems oblivious to it all.
Totally oblivious. Doesn't see it at all.
No.
And that was hard.
Yeah, and I actually pulled out a line from that because of Leah Gonzalez's like gorgeous writing, and I absolutely loved. She said, "If I let these feelings I'm having even an inch past the dam I've built in my throat, I would drown this whole building."
Yes,
I mean, what a line!
It was, and Barrett, Vic, she delivered it so. She delivered that scene so well.
It was crazy. But I think it was Vic is always like the joker of the pack, and she's very stoic and very kind of very cool all the time. And so for her to kind of have that moment and to have that particular line, to kind of say it's right at the surface, and and there's a reason I have to hold it all in, is because there is so much there to be held in. And I think I think it did kind of shake Theo a little bit into kind of realizing, kind of pull, because he was a little bit self-absorbed in that moment, I think, and until she said that. And so I think it was good that she managed to kind of like pull him in, and and she said, didn't she, like, I'm always everybody's nurse, but I can't play that role as the widow again. And sometimes I need someone to be the nurse for me. And I was really glad that she did that, and that she allowed herself to be vulnerable and kind of say, I might not show it, but I need the support sometimes. So I did like that. I loved that.
Yeah, you used the same word I was going to use. I loved that Vic was vulnerable and very transparent when she knew she needed help. Being a nurse, it is like when you're a nurse, you are always the nurse, right?
Yes.
And when you need a nurse, there isn't one, because they're like, well, you're a nurse. And so I loved that she allowed herself to be transparent and genuine with him. And I will say Theo seems to always be good at recognizing and being receptive once something is brought to his attention.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he handled that scene pretty well. And then they were back to joking at the end.
Yeah.
But I loved how they communicated there.
Yeah, they are actually really effective communicators. I do appreciate that about them. Beckett, on the other hand, is horrendous. And so Andy appears to be the only person that has any time left for the guy at all. And so she went storming into his office. I love that she said to him, you know, I actually like you, right? Like, yeah, it's a party of one, Andy. It's a party of one. But, and kind of said to him, we need leadership. We need a North Star. And he basically says, well, I'm not about that. It doesn't matter what I do. You all guys think I'm a monster, so I may as well be the monster that you think I am. Get out. And then he goes straight to the bottle after he's 30 seconds previously said to Andy, I even gave up drinking for you guys.
Yeah.
So people are giving like a lot of duty to Maya for giving him that bottle of booze. I think, was it episode two of the series, I think?
I was it 2 or 3?
I can't remember, but I remember that
it was early in there.
It was very early in the series, and I remember her saying in one of the lives that it was a tag on, that they actually like shot it a couple of weeks after they'd shot the bulk of the episode. And For me, quite honestly, I think it was lazy and poor writing to do that. I don't think it reflects Maya's character at all. It seemed like a really weird move. But either way, on people on social media are saying that Maya was the catalyst for him to start drinking again. But my feeling is that he never stopped, because when he's kind of looking in all the places for the booze, like he's always got a constant stash for me. And he was chucking back the mints in the first part of the season as well.
Yeah, like constant.
So I think that was to cover up the smell of the alcohol. But I'm just wondering where that's kind of going to end up as well, his dependence on alcohol.
I'm going to say one thing about that, then I'll go back to the Andy and Beckett.
Yeah.
Do you think that they were trying to show how poorly her mental health was when she did that?
Maybe, but it didn't. I think that the way it was done, because even when she's at her worst, she's not usually that vindictive.
Manipulative.
She can be very offhand. She can be nasty, like acerbic. But I mean, that's just if you know that someone has a problem with alcohol and you give them a bottle. Now, obviously, it's down to him whether he puts it down the sink or puts it in his filing cabinet for later. That's down to him. But to literally hand somebody the poison that they're using to slowly kill themselves is pretty vindictive. And so that's why I just think that it was, even in her mental health crisis, I don't think that's Maya-like behavior. So it just doesn't fit for me.
No, and I can definitely see that. That was a rough scene. I know I had someone write me when I was doing the interview with Danielle, I almost said Maya, and I didn't see it. I didn't get to it until after I interviewed her, because I got so many messages before, just people wanting me to say things. And somebody actually wrote me and said, can you please ask Danielle how she felt about that scene? Because the person who wrote me said that their father is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And has tried to recover, and it really bothered her a lot, the person who wrote me. And like I said, I didn't see it in time to ask, but it upset quite a few people.
Yeah,
that writing there,
and understandably so. Yeah, I think it was. I'm not really sure why they made that choice. It seems like a very left of field choice, but there we have it.
As for Andy and Beckett, am I the only one that when Andy came in, I thought she was being a little flirty, or maybe trying to I don't know, maybe she was doing that just to get his guard down a little bit. But I felt like even when he got in her face, I felt like her facial expressions and her eyes were, I don't know, maybe that's just me. I thought she was being a little flirty, because they had
that little past something there.
Yeah. I definitely thought he was going to be more receptive to her, because she's only ever been positive towards him. Yeah,
absolutely. And everyone does give him a hard time, and she's the only one left who's trying to defend his honor at all. So I guess he's very frustrated. He's not in a great place, and people don't make the best decisions. He's also in a mental health crisis of kinds, the same way that Maya is, and so both of their judgment is clouded. So
for sure.
Yeah, I'm just worried about how much worse that's going to get before it gets better. We'll see. But speaking of Andy, the second kind of storyline that was in 608 was Andy and Eli, my fellow Brit.
Yes.
So essentially, all of the Andy and Eli stuff was Eli following Andy around like a puppy, trying to get her to get out of Travis's ear, as he says, and into the ears of everybody else, because she's the true leader of 19, as he keeps reminding her. Because he needs everybody on board to help him with Travis's campaign. But I just found their stuff to be so amusing. Everything was really heavy in 608, except for the Andy and Eli stuff. And I mean, again, Leah Gonzalez and her writing, when Eli walks in and Andy's on reception, and she just literally turns around and goes, "No," just that, "No," and it was just. Yeah. it was just brilliant, and it just set the tone for everything else with them. So, but I mean, here's a patronizing arse, though. To be fair, I mean, he called him, what is it, stupid and noble.
Stupid and noble. Yep.
Said that firefighters just rescue cats and slide down the little pole, and so she wouldn't understand what he does, which is winning elections with the good guys. Um, he's very patronizing, and I'll be honest, I think that English accent like buys him a lot of excuses. Like, I think, I
Oh yeah,
think.
definitely, definitely. But I loved when he went down the pole though. I loved that
Oh
scene.
yeah, and then she was like, "I was joking." It didn't sound like she was joking to me, to be perfectly honest. I think she was just hoping that he'd be like too much of a wuss or something to do it. But
To not do it.
when he hit the deck and then said, "We need to call for help," and she said, "I am literally who would turn up." It was just brilliant. And then she just very casually pops his shoulder back in.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Yeah, and we needed that. He got what he wanted out of it, though, because she gave him 72 hours grace. She said that she was going to lay off him for 72 hours. And she also noticed the swoons. We've seen the swoons coming. We've noticed that Eli has noticed Andy. Now Andy has noticed that Eli has noticed Andy.
Yes, it's unraveling now. The flirting has gone on for long enough. Now we're starting to see something.
Yeah. So that was kind of the light relief, and then we get a mixture of light relief and heavy duty stuff from the Dixon v Ross storyline. So did you want
Hmm.
to dive into that a little bit and tell us how that went? Refresh my memory.
So we see. Well, we started out with Dixon in her office,
That's right.
asking basically his manipulative, conniving self, trying to get her to stand with him at the town hall. And Ross is coming across very confident, like, my department wasn't in that newspaper. That was you. Jamal got home because of us.
Yeah.
And I loved that. And then, of course, Dixon whips out what we've all been wondering is when he's going to do that. We knew
Yeah.
that he was going to do that. That his wife Kitty is talking about getting lawyers because of the HIPAA violation.
Right, with the Crisis One call out
Yep,
to when she was
leaked the story.
yeah, when she was drunk and they got into a bit of a domestic, and that's right. Yes, yeah, and
Yep.
there we go. It was Eli again that
Yes,
leaked
Eli
the
leaked the
story.
story.
Yes,
And we hear Chief Ross say that she'll stand with him. And I remember thinking, she's not going to stand with him, right? Right. Like, just
I
thinking
was
there's,
hoping that she was
yeah,
going to kind of stick it to him once they got there. I was living in hope.
yeah. And then, a couple scenes later, we see him waiting for her outside her office with I don't remember what it was,
It was a matcha
something,
latte because
a matcha latte.
all the pretty girls like a
Yep.
matcha latte.
All the pretty girls
And
drink
he means
those.
that in a complimentary way, not a pejorative way.
Right, of course. Um, and I love Chief Ross in that scene as well because she was being so honest with her words, but not the way that Dixon was receiving them.
Yes.
Right, like she
Yes. Yeah,
played on
yeah.
her words, even when he was.
Yeah, doesn't she say that she can always be counted on to do the right thing?
I'm a woman that can always be counted on to do the right thing, even when the person who almost got me tased. Um,
Yes,
she
yeah,
reminds
yeah.
him of that. So I love her little liners too. Um, and then we see them again at the end of I think the episode. Does it finish out with that maybe the scene where she's talking at the town hall? I think that's the last scene. Um,
I think the last scene is after the town hall with, I think, with Sully. He comes to talk to her about what happened at the town
oh
hall.
yes, I love that scene too. Which we can talk about that as well because it goes with the Chief Ross timeline. But she handled the speech so well; gave me goosebumps. I love that she stood her ground. I love that she offered the police officers to come and do Crisis 1 training if they want to, like how she threw that out there.
I love that because it was salt in the wounds first when she said, "Oh, it was a lack of training that
Yes.
made PD draw their weapons." And so I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, that is salt in the wounds." And then she really handed it to him, saying, "We invite any
Yes.
PD that wants better
Yeah.
training to come to FD, and we'll give them Crisis 1 training, and then nobody's going to have to go through what Jamal went through ever again." And I just
Yeah. I loved
really
it.
handed it to the guy.
She did. And I also loved when they panned the cameras back to the station, and like Vic and everybody, Ben and Andy, were all like, yeah, she did that, she did that. I love how they focused on Sullivan
Yeah.
and the amount of almost grief or concern that he had on his face, and
Yeah.
and the big sigh, right? I
Yeah.
loved that, which is what pans us to the last scene where he shows up and she's like, you can't be here, you can't be here, and he's like, we'll keep the lights on, leave the door open,
Yeah, and
I'm
he's
gonna
come
sit
with a
over
stack of
here,
papers
yeah,
and
hand
so
you
he's
one at a
exactly
time.
under the guise
Yeah.
of like, we're just going to be
Yeah.
talking about some paperwork. And yeah,
Yeah.
and he's so supportive of her, which is
Yes,
a new look for Robert Sullivan.
it
um
is.
that he's standing with her, taking the moral high ground, because she's super concerned, and I loved that as well, actually, that she was vulnerable with him, and
Yes,
allowed herself to be emotional with him, because
me too.
we haven't seen that side of Chief Ross. She's very kind of, I am the plan, I make the plan, I execute the plan, I am the plan, like very self-assured. This is what we
Yes.
do, this is how we do it, no exceptions. And now we see for the first time she's wavering, and she says, I wasn't a good soldier. She didn't follow the plan. I
Didn't
wasn't a
fall in
good
line.
soldier. I
Yeah.
didn't fall in line. And now I've made an enemy of Dixon for myself, but I've also made an enemy of Dixon for 19.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of cut up, and she's, as far as we can see, for the first time, unsure in herself and in her decision making. And again, Sullivan joins her on the moral high ground and says to her, "No, you've done absolutely the right thing."
Yes. When he said my love, I was
Yeah, yeah,
I love them together. I know there's people that don't, but I think they have amazing chemistry. I love Merle Dandridge for the role of Chief Ross. I
oh
think
yeah,
she executes it, and I just love the chemistry that Ross and Sullivan have. I worry what's going to happen with it.
yeah.
I just hope that it doesn't affect her as chief, because I love the powerhouse that she is as chief.
Yes, yeah.
And I would hate for the writers to let it go down because of a man. I know it's not just a man. I know that they're in love, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
I
I would hate
completely
for it
get
to
what you're,
lose
yeah,
for that.
absolutely, absolutely. I too love them together, and I think what's so great about them is that they immediately understand each other. They've got this shared history. They've both got the same kind of background and outlook, having been in the military. So not only have they known each other in the past, so there's like a relationship history and a personal history, but the fact that they've both kind of been in the same environment, they've both seen the same things, they've both been through the same kind of harrowing stuff.
Yeah.
They just completely understand each other, and there's a shorthand there, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that he didn't have with. I know people loved him and Andy. I did not. They were just like oil and water for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's like oil and vinegar, right? Like they're a great combination. They go great together in one way, but they don't ever mix.
Yeah.
So, and that for
Yeah.
me, that was Sullivan and Andy. It was just, they were just two separate entities that kind of met in the middle somewhere, but never really came together. Whereas I think that Ross and Sullivan just get each other on a level that no one else will ever get either of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't think that they really delved into that relationship. I think it was a very surface relationship,
Yes.
and we didn't see Like it seemed like Sullivan, to me it seemed like Sullivan was in love with Andy, but I don't think Andy felt as strongly the same way. Because
No.
even when they announced the marriage, she was so like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't want people to know. And
Yeah.
it was, yeah, that was a interesting time in writing
Yes.
for that
Yeah.
relationship.
But no, I think that they've got it right now with Sullivan and Ross, in my opinion.
For sure. For sure.
Okay, so the real kind of meaty part of the show is Maya.
Yes, the part that they're all like, why aren't they talking about Maya and Diane? Oh, we will.
We're going there. We're going there. We're going there.
Yes.
Maya. Okay. So when the show opens with Maya maniacally cleaning every square centimeter of that apartment. And
Yes.
nobody cleans with the determination, zeal, and fervor than a person who's trying to avoid their life.
Yes.
But
Stress cleaning.
stress cleaning. But on a serious note, I guess at this time in her life, it is the one thing in her environment that she can actually control.
Yeah.
So, at least she's taking action. She's doing something. And as we know, Maya likes to take action and do something. She's high functioning and she always has to be productive, even in crisis.
The first thing I thought when they opened that scene up was, what is she trying to wash away? What is she trying to remove evidence of?
Yeah.
Is she, because even when Diane walks in and you see her pan the room, there's a look of, okay, this is going to be tough almost.
Yeah.
And so I just remember thinking she's removing all evidence of what was before.
Yeah, and it's so weird because we wrote down almost exactly the same thing. I've written down that she's trying to sanitize everything,
Hmm.
and that sometimes you just have to sit in the dirt.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. So bless her. She goes from maniacally cleaning to maniacally moving furniture. And
Yep.
Diane kind of rightly points out that she's just extending things for absolutely no good reason. Like all the while she's avoiding talking to Diane, she's just pushing the way back to herself, the way back to life, further and further away. She's just delaying the inevitable, and
Yeah.
so finally gets her to sit down with some felt tip pens and a piece of paper and start getting down to it.
Yeah. And we found out we finally found out how she fractured her ankle in the or sprained her ankle in the Olympics.
Oh, I mean, haven't we all got some kind of soft tissue injury chasing a girl? Like, is that not a thing? If we not,
It was so funny when she. I
it's
mean, it wasn't.
classic
She
Maya.
didn't deliver it funny, but it was funny. I was chasing a girl on the French relay team. Of course you
Of
were.
course you were. Of course you were. But she says she wasn't going to let one stupid night decide her fate. So she got on
Yeah.
with it and she ran anyway and she won anyway. And I kind of draw the parallel that, she's not going to let this one stupid thing, like that's Maya's way, right? So
Yeah.
she's going to do exactly the same thing and she's going to, get back on the track and start again, not let this one stupid thing decide her fate, I hope. But Diane has her write down the timeline from the first time she thought of winning to
Yeah.
winning at the Olympics. So she gets
Yeah.
going, and when we see her again, it's like a scene out of A Beautiful Mind. All those chaotic scribbles
Yes.
and the arrows and all the craziness. And she's only managed to get up to age 12, but Diane says that's plenty. So just that little interlude there between 3 and 12. But did you see on Twitter, there were a couple of girls who did God's work and they sat down and they kind of freeze framed and managed to decipher the crazy scribbles and do their own timeline?
I saw like two pictures at one point that had writing down on it. I looked at one of them, so I did see it, but I didn't read all
Yeah.
of them.
Well, I just took a couple of the kind of honourable mentions from there, stuff that I thought was worth mentioning from that kind of explain Myra a little bit more. And I'll actually get in touch with, because we're going to put this video up on YouTube as well. So I'll get in touch with the girls on Twitter and ask them if we can maybe use their graphic and put it up for people to
Yeah,
see.
for sure.
So Maya's, this makes me sad. So Maya's written down that when she was 6, she struggled with her reading, and her dad wouldn't let her eat dinner until she could read without mistakes. So, it's just
it's heartbreaking.
It really breaks your heart that, and I'm aware Myra's not a real human being. I'm aware, but there are so many Myas out there.
Yes.
How many kids have been through that today? And what's it going to do to them when they're? It's just heartbreaking. And we know that this carried on, and this kind of behavior from her father followed Maya, because I think it might be 305 when we have the flashback to Maya in her teenage years with her cute little train track braces, and her dad won't let her have the mashed potato at the dinner table. In fact, he won't even talk to her, and she has to ask Mason to ask her dad to pass the mashed potato or something, and he won't let her eat it and ends up throwing it against the wall. So we know
says, "I don't hear losers," or something like that,
yes,
right? He says, "I don't hear
exactly,
losers."
Exactly, yeah. And and he ends up throwing the potatoes against the wall rather than let Maya. So we know that this wasn't just like a one-off thing. This is something that's been happening consistently through her life. When she was 7, her coach tells her dad that she has talent for a girl. And then when she was 9, she starts cross country and wants to quit cross country, but her dad tells her that only losers quit. We find out that she's wanted to be an Olympian since she was 10. She did a presentation on what she wanted to be when she was older, and she says an Olympic athlete. And then the other one that made me sad was when she was 11 at soccer camp, no one would pass the ball to her. And she also says that that's the first time someone says that her dad is intense. So she doesn't even realize until she's 11 years old that her father's behavior is not behavior that people expect from a father, that he's an intense guy. So, but
yeah.
That doesn't even occur to her until someone says it to her when she's 11.
Yeah, it's his behavior is normal to her. That's what she knows.
Exactly,
right?
If that's all you know, right? So what wasn't written down on the actual chart itself, but what the girls deduced and what we can deduce from that timeline is that, because she says she remembers when she was age 10, she remembers seeing Brandy Chastain score the winning goal for the USA. I mean, that sticks out in many minds. But so if she was 10 and that was 99, then she was born in 89, which makes her 32 now, allowing for the hokey, Station 19, all over the place timeline, because there's 3 weeks between the close of season 3 and the opening of season 4. And then there's 11 months between the closing of season 4 and the opening of season 5, and then we've got another 6 months between season 5 and season 6. So I don't know if they're in the future. I don't know if we started in the past. I think it might be 2025 in Seattle right now. But
that's so funny.
But allowing for the weird time jumps, we can surmise that Maya is 32, which makes her 6 years younger than Karina. And that she was 23 when she won the gold in London. But yeah, I love that there was that little bit of, in amongst all the heaviness, Leah Gonzalez. Tiffany, why doesn't she write all of the episodes?
Every single one. I would be totally happy.
Because we have this tiny little bit of light relief where Diane asks Maya to read out the timeline, and Maya says, "Oh, that feels a little bit patronizing to me." And Diane says, "Well, you feel a little bit exhausting to me." And
Maya's like, "That's fair."
Fair, yeah. but it is brilliant. And so then we get Maya's backstory that her father got mad at her cousin for losing a race. And that it was at that point that she realized that her father's love depended on her being a winner, and that's how it's stayed throughout their relationship, and how she's dealt with every relationship. We find out that she feels she's only worthy of love if she's winning.
And that scene with 3-year-old Maya was so. Danielle just killed that whole on the floor sobbing that she doesn't want to
Oh
lose.
God, I it felt to me like she'd regressed. It was almost like a 3-year-old tantrum, kind of the way
Yeah.
she was like crying. And she said, I don't know why," because the tears had started to come, and then the over and over, "I don't want to lose, I don't want to lose, I don't want to lose." You know, and the way that she asked for ice. "I need ice, but my ankle, but it hurts. I need ice." It was like she went back to being like this desperate, petulant child. And yeah, it just absolutely broke my heart. And it was just ridiculously well written. It was so well written, and I mean, in Daniel Savory and Tracy Toms more than did the words justice.
They did. The chemistry between them is undeniable, and I truly believe that Danielle was filming that episode when I interviewed her. Because if you go back, she's like, "The actor I'm working with right now, we have to have dialogue back and forth, and the tears just flow when we talk." I wonder if she was filming that episode when I interviewed her. Which, as soon as I finished this episode, I thought, man, I wish I would have seen this before I interviewed her, because it was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
even for the mental health aspect, it
Yes,
was
yeah,
just amazing.
absolutely. The whole thing was just, I mean, beyond. I think it's some of the best TV I've ever seen. Full stop.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I've also seen some comments about like a couple of kind of negative Nellies saying they thought it was cheesy having the stuff with the she was holding 3-year-old Maya. And I just wanted to say that all of this stuff, all the stuff about the psychogenic pain, all the stuff about this all stemming from her being 3 years old, and her literally, when you're 3 years old, as she said, Diane said, when you're 3 years old, you can't feed yourself, you can't clothe yourself, you can't
Right.
shelter yourself, you're completely dependent upon your parents. And most parents willingly give that love and attention to their children. It's not something that you have to beg and ask for, but she's had to learn the conditions under which she gets fed and she is loved and she is taken care of. I mean, something as fundamental as food being withheld from a child. If you've got to figure out what you have to do to get food,
Yeah.
that survival instinct is going to be strong. And so it makes perfect sense that the demotion signified to her losing, because she'd always had the hope, because there was an investigation open, and she was absolutely convinced that at the close of that investigation she would be vindicated and she would get her captaincy back. So it wasn't a loss, it was a pause. And as soon as Chief Ross said to her, no, it's not happening, boom, I'm no longer lovable.
Yep.
I'm no longer, I'm going to go straight into survival mode. And so that's why she blackmailed the chief. It wasn't out of, it wasn't just out of petulance and, that job is rightfully mine. It was like, I will lose everything. I literally will die.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It was that drastic.
Yeah, because it's the little 3-year-old kid that's saying, we will, if we don't do this, we're going to die. And so she took the most drastic measures, and all of this is, and the psychogenic pain, when she was saying, my ankle hurts, my ankle hurts, my ankle hurts, I need it. And then as soon as she's snotted on Diane, as she says, and got it all out, the pain's dissipated because it was psychogenic pain. And now that, she's kind of opened the floodgates and let some of the psychological pain out, the physical pain has gone. And the holding of the 3-year-old child, that's a tried and tested common therapeutic process. And I actually know somebody who had literally just kind of met their inner child, like literally a couple of weeks before Maya went through this process, and it actually was watching this the show was a conduit for this person to open up to me about their experience of meeting their inner child, and it's usually through a guided meditation. It's tried and tested, and it doesn't normally happen as quickly as it happened for
Right.
Maya. It's usually a weeks and months long process, but all of that stuff is exactly what somebody with Maya's mental health issues would go through with their therapist. So it's all legit, all of it, and it was absolutely beautifully done.
It was beautifully written and beautifully executed by Diane and Maya. I just and you hit like I wanted. The physical pain and emotional pain was powerful to me, and then being lovable, win or lose, and then I love that Maya was able to rest. I love that they panned
Yeah.
back and showed her in the bed with the little 3-year-old Maya
Yes.
and just
Yeah.
resting.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful way to kind of put the bow on that
Yeah, absolutely.
that one. So, yep, beautiful scene.
The other thing I noticed with that whole thing with Maya and Diane as well is Diane's come there because FD's mandated it, and she says to Maya, "You have to do this if you want to get back to work." Then she says to Maya, "Do you actually want to get back to work?" And then at the end, she says to Maya, I think that I can clear you for desk duties if you want to ease in." And on none of those occasions when Diane mentions work does Maya respond in any way. She kind of completely blanks the whole work sitch. But what we do hear consistently is, "I love my wife. I miss my wife. I want to call my wife. What do I do?" And
Yeah.
and it's the first time that we see Maya. I don't say she hasn't prioritized Karina over her job, because she's done it a bunch of times. She did it when she went and joined in with the car chase when that saw the demise of Andrea. But she's done it a few times. But she took leave, didn't she, to take care of Karina after Andrea died. So I'm not saying that she hasn't ever, but as a general rule, we see Maya put the job first.
100%.
And she's completely ignored Diane when Diane's mentioned going back to work, and all she wants to do is reconnect with her wife.
Yeah, and I wish there would have, like, Diane could have been on FaceTime with Karina or something and had the phone sitting in the room just so she could have heard that, because I do think Maya has put the job before Karina in several ways, several times.
Yeah.
And if Karina were here, Stefania, but if Karina were here and we were talking to her, she would say, "My wife loves her job more than me." I think she would say that 100%.
Yeah.
And so Maya doesn't just need to prove that she's healthy mentally. She needs to prove that Karina means everything to her, which I think she herself realizes now. Because I don't think she realized that before.
No. The other thing is, like, they haven't had any contact. And again, with the timeline, when Diane first goes in, she says to, no, it's not. It's not when she first goes in at all. It's when Maya asks, "Can she call Karina?" And Diane says, "How much sleep have you had in the last 2 weeks?" Are we assuming then that it's been 2 weeks since she was 5150'd? Like, since she was released from the psych hold?
It seems like that's what they're implying, because I don't think she would just ask her that
she would just pluck 2 weeks out of the
randomly.
air. No.
Yeah. So yeah, which doesn't make any sense if that's what they're saying, because I would imagine she was in the hospital for 2 or 3 days and maybe home a couple of days by the time she comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it has been 2 weeks, that's a hell of a long time to not hear from your spouse.
Especially with what happened. 100%.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't seem like she's seen anybody else from the station either. She seems very isolated.
Which I don't like at all.
No.
I very much thought when we saw the episode where the hospital scene, which was so hard to watch, I thought for sure, like, when she got home from the hospital, Andy would be there to help get everything settled.
You would have hoped that Andy would have, like, moved in. I mean,
to watch her.
Yeah, it's not like they don't have form for that. That would be the 4th time that Andy moved in.
Yeah, that she's moved in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't like that at all.
I didn't like it, and hopefully that will resolve itself, and the team will be a team again, and they'll be supportive of her. But it was a difficult watch, but just so well executed by everybody, well written, well directed, impeccably acted. It was an episode and a half. It was amazing.
Totally amazing. I agree. It was it I know that this episode helped a lot of people with mental health issues.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go on Twitter, everybody was posting pictures of themselves as a kid.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and then I watched it again immediately. And then I went and wrote, I don't know where it is, but I wrote one of the longest poems I've ever written about the people who mentally and emotionally abused me for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was nice to just release that. And that
It was
episode inspired
cathartic
that.
for a lot of people, I think, that episode.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I think what Leah did so well as well for me is that although all of the storylines seem really disparate, it felt to me that there was an overarching theme of like passing things on down through the generations. So with Theo, Tomas says, he goes back to his old neighborhood, and Tomas says to him, oh, look, he's just like his pops because his father before him was a
Yes.
firefighter. So we've got like the heroism being passed down from father to son with Theo. Then there's the physical passing on of something in the family Bible that Theo rescues from the house. It's got the family tree on it, and it's about having something, to physically pass on from generation to generation. And when you look at everything that's going on with Dixon and the police department, that could even be seen as like a generational passing on of something in a negative way with
Yeah,
the
for sure.
institutional racism that runs through the police department. I'm sure that police officers individually, 99% of them aren't racist, but because the institution itself has this history of racism, that's kind of getting passed down from generation of police officers, and then Maya's trauma is generational. It's been passed on to her by her father. And, thank God we see her trying to break the cycle so that she doesn't pass that on down. That's what I took from the episode anyway.
No, and I actually thought about that too. I thought how good it was that this all happened, because I think she would have been exactly how her father was to her kids.
Yeah.
And not on purpose. I
No.
think it was just so ingrained in her
Yes.
that would have come out. So I'm so happy that it's worked out this way, that she's getting freed from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that we kind of watched two episodes kind of back to back, but thinking back to the end of episode 8, then what were you excited to see in episode 9? What were you looking forward to seeing in episode 9?
Maya and Karina talking.
Yeah.
And not even like getting back together, but just making some sort of point of contact.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to seeing what's going to happen now with Chief Ross and Dixon and
Same.
the lawsuit. And
yeah, it's building. It's definitely building. And who did you think? I mean, this seems like a redundant question considering like the deep dive that we just did. But who do you think had either like the best like story arc or the most growth in that episode?
100% Maya, 100% the growth that she had, which, as you said, it does not happen overnight like that. But I mean, it was like a light switched, and it was cool to see.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, yeah, same. Yeah, Maya. There was just to be honest, I could have watched a whole hour of that of just Maya and Diane.
Yeah.
Like, and the episode went really quickly. My fiance even said, "Oh my god, is it over?" Because it just felt like it just went so. It felt like it really went quickly, and I genuinely could have watched another hour of that. So Maya's growth was incredible through that whole thing. Did you have a favorite scene?
I think my favorite scene was when she was when she asked Maya how she felt, and she was like embarrassed, raw, tired.
Yeah.
And then when she started talking to her again and she started sobbing and she was just like, I miss my wife. I love my wife.
Yeah.
That scene for me just it really stuck me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Loved that. Love that. What about you?
Yeah, I think that the acting, the way she delivered that line specifically, just yeah,
Yes.
was a knife to the heart. But I think I would struggle to choose between all of the Diana Maya scenes. I think that I wonder how it would have been if Peter Page had been at the helm in the director's chair, because
Yeah.
it felt similar to Maya and Karina in 414.
Ah. Yep.
The kind of the fact that it was just the two of them having a very intense conversation, and yeah, I mean, obviously it was more still. They weren't sort of chasing each other around the apartment, but I would struggle to. I think all of that could have been put into like one scene, and it would have been like an incredible kind of two-man play kind of thing. So I
Yeah,
loved all
for
of
sure.
that. And did you have like a favorite line or a favorite bit of dialogue?
Um, my favorite dialogue was every scene between Diane and Maya.
Yeah.
Um, if I had to pick a favorite line, it would probably be the part when she says to Diane, "But I love her." And then Diane says something, and then she says, I have to learn to love myself. I just loved how the look on her face. Danielle did such a good job with
Yeah.
little gestures
The
and
very
looks.
subtle.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, and I loved that.
Yeah.
What about you? What did you? It's so hard to pick one line out of the Diane and Maya.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, just I actually loved the line that I picked out for Vic, which is, if I let the feelings out past the dam I've built in my throat. That felt like a lyric, almost like a song lyric. That was super duper special, and just for comedy, just for lightness and comedy value, and just for
Yes.
um, it felt like a very natural conversation when Diane told her that she finds her exhausting. It just
Yeah.
so that felt like that made the dynamic feel very real to me, and it made it feel like it set the tone for the conversation. I think for the rest of it, it's like Diane again kind of saying, really, are we really, is this how we're going to play this? You
Yeah.
you feel exhausting to me. And then Maya's kind of, fair enough. For me, that kind of reset the balance and reset the tone, because Maya went in combative and Diane was like, are we really gonna? So but the very light and comedic way in which it was done, you feel patronizing, well, you feel exhausting. So yeah, that was.
I just thought I loved how she was like very emotional. And I love how when Diane she said a whole dialogue, and then she was like, "That's worth a little bit of embarrassment." And Maya's like, "But it's not just a little bit of embarrassment,
Yeah,
though."
it's not just
I
a little
love
bit.
how she
Yeah.
delivered that line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we've got an embarrassment of riches, I think, with that episode.
hmm
But it was brilliant. So we said, didn't we, that we were going to do a double header, because 8 and 9, we couldn't have done 9 without doing 8, but we're on the verge of,
right.
of 10. So, I mean, are you still happy? Should we just dive right in?
Sure, why not? I mean, if we want to get 9 out, we might as well put them together and finish it up.
Yeah,